Hola, ¿qué tal? Hello, welcome to the channel made by two humans who live in Spain, where we want you to be happier traveling throughout the Iberian Peninsula with the help of our videos. And welcome to the new era of Q&A videos, which, as we recently announced, will appear here at the beginning of each month, provided we are not traveling. I would like to take this opportunity to confirm that we will publish the next Q&A on March the 1st. If you have any questions for that video, feel free to ask. For these new Q&A videos, we have decided to combine all the questions we receive on our three channels, in Portuguese, in Spanish, and here in English. What happens is that often interesting questions appear on the other channels that we felt it would be a shame not to show in every channel we run. Another new feature of these Q&A videos is that from now on we will start the monthly videos with a roundup of travel news that would not generate a video on their own, but that we think would be interesting for you to know about, especially because we answer questions that some of you have asked us on that very same topic. The first item we're going to talk is about the horrific high-speed accident that caused many casualties. We have already been asked by some of you about the cause of the accident, but as you know, we don't like to speculate, let alone talk about something we don't know anything about. We are not specialists in railway accidents, and we are not going to make a video about it, if only out of respect for the victims. We've just seen a video in English, in the English language, about the accident, and it was, well, I have no words to describe it. Possible causes are already being suggested, but we will only be able to tell you anything once the investigators have finished their work. Several people have asked us if it is safe to travel by train in Spain right now, by high-speed train. It's a legitimate question. It's a difficult question as well. Because we could say that it is safe to travel by train, by plane, by boat, and the next day an accident could happen. Everyone knows their own risk tolerance. We have traveled several times by high-speed trains since the accident, and if you don't stop flying when there is a plane crash, or if you don't stop driving after a car crash, you shouldn't stop traveling by train either. But as we have already said, it is a very personal matter. We will continue to travel by train as before, but we respect everyone's decisions. However, from now on, the situation will change. We will be much more careful when booking connections involving high-speed trains. Today, there are many more trains running on Spain's railways, and incidents, not accidents, incidents are much more frequent, which automatically translates into delays. And now, after the accident, things have become much more complicated. Last week we traveled to Madrid by high-speed train. On the way there, our train was delayed by an hour. On the way back, we broke our personal record for delays, 3 hours and 20 minutes. Please be very careful with connections. If you are catching an international flight, our advice remains more than ever to try to sleep in the city where your flight departs from. And speaking of delays, you might remember how we said in the last Q&A session that Barça, Football Club Barcelona, was already playing again at Camp Nou, their stadium. We recently went to see the stadium renovations, and wow, everything's still far from being ready. There's still a long way to go before the renovations are complete. Right now, Camp Nou is one giant construction site. In the meantime, they've moved the museum, the Barça Museum, to a small building next to the stadium, so the stadium isn't part of the current tour. But interestingly enough, the price of the tour is still the same. Our advice: if you're sure you will never return to Barcelona and you are a big Barça fan, go to the museum. Otherwise, wait, because when the stadium is finished, the museum will be much more spectacular and you will also be able to tour the stadium, which isn't possible right now. On another note, we now know how many international visitors arrived in Spain in 2025. The figure was 97 million, which is staggering. To give you an idea, in 2019, the last year before the pandemic, the figure was 83 million. And in 2010, when we started working with tourism in Spain, it was 52 million. In 15 years, it has doubled. It's incredible. Some people, especially in the tourism sector, believe that the growth of tourism should not be limited. We, who also make our living from tourism, disagree. There must be a limit. It is not difficult to understand that 8 people cannot live comfortably in an apartment designed for 4. For us, the unmistakable sign that this growth has already exceeded the limits of what is tolerable is that tourism is negatively affecting the lives of residents in many cities. And we want sustainable tourism, not tourism that complicates the lives of those who live in those destinations. Moreover, this enormous number of tourists is also affecting the quality of the tourist experience. Those of you who have been here recently already know there are tourists everywhere. Lines, reservations essential for places that didn't require them before, inability to enter places you wanted to visit because there simply isn't room for more people. It's difficult. And let's not even talk about prices. Hotel owners decided after the pandemic that they were going to try their luck by raising prices year after year and pushing the limit. And as long as there are people willing to pay, prices will continue to rise. Today, hotels in cities like San Sebastian or Barcelona have prices that put them up with the most expensive cities in the world. And it was not like that, not that long ago. To wrap up this opening section, last week we published a video about the entry-exit system. Don't miss it. And regarding ETIAS, there is no news. It won't begin before late 2026. And after seeing the countless problems some countries are facing with the EES, we wouldn't be surprised if that deadline gets postponed again. We want to deeply thank the huge number of channel followers who have shared their experience with the EES. The most interesting thing is that everything indicates things are not going very well, because it's not normal that in January you arrive at an airport like Madrid's and the EES machines are turned off. But we understand that's why an initial 6-month testing period has been established. We'll see what happens when it's implemented at 100%. We'll continue reporting on this topic in future Q&A videos. And just as we want to thank so many people for their collaboration, we also want to express the sadness, the tears we feel every time someone comes in to ask something that's already been explained in the video. If you do that, you are not watching the video, and then the channel ceases to exist. Respect content creators, seriously. The EES video, by the way, tested our resources. It was a flood of questions. We tried to answer many, but you know that now we only focus on answering without fail questions from channel members. That's what we do every day at the start of the day. We continue working, and if we have time left over, we try to answer questions from non-members. If you are interested in becoming a member and at the same time supporting the work we do here in the channel, click the button below. And now let's get started with the questions. The first one is from Enrique. Hello Tony and Cecilia, thank you for the video. I am going to Granada, and then he quotes the dates of his trip. He's going to Granada, then from Granada to Antequera, Antequera to Seville, and Seville to Cordoba. And the question is, which is better, Granada, Antequera, Cordoba and Seville, or Granada, Antequera, Seville and Cordoba? We are traveling by train. Enrique, both options are valid, but the first one optimizes travel a little better since the train from Antequera to Seville will pass through Cordoba anyway. Question from Junio. I have a Spanish NIE, that's a card for foreign residents. How should I proceed when I enter and leave Spain? Well, firstly, a fundamental piece of information is missing. If you have an NIE, because you are an European Union resident, you are not subject to immigration control and can move around as a Spanish citizen would. In the case of someone who has an NIE and is a citizen of a country outside the European Union, the instructions from the Spanish Home Office are clear. When queuing for passport control, both on arrival and departure, you must join the queue for non-European Union citizens. You will have to show your passport and your TIE, which is the ID for foreigners in Spain. As a legal resident, you do not need to register your details on the EES machines. The next question is from Fer. I'm planning my trip to Spain. I realize how difficult it is to travel from Segovia to other places due to the distance from Segovia-Guiomar. Does Uber work well in these places? We imagine you are referring to traveling from the high-speed train station in Segovia, which is called Segovia-Guiomar, which is far from the city center. Neither Uber nor other ride-sharing services operate in Segovia, but to leave the station is very easy. To leave the station and get to the city center, you can take either a taxi or a direct local bus. Next question is from Maria do Carmo. I have been following the channel for years and appreciate all the tips. And then she tells us her story. She's arriving in Madrid and her destination is in the Pyrenees in the north. And she doesn't know what to do because it's quite complicated to combine the train schedules to Zaragoza, from Madrid to Zaragoza, with the trains or buses going up to Huesca. She says, I didn't want to wait for hours or arrive at my destination too late. I thought about staying overnight in Zaragoza. What do you suggest? Dear Maria do Carmo, on the day of arrival, we prefer to take it easy and not complicate our lives with uncertain transport connections. If you stay overnight in Zaragoza, you will have a much wider range of high-speed train schedules and prices to choose from. Do your research on the train line, and you will also have the privilege of sleeping in Zaragoza. The next day or the day after, if you don't know Zaragoza, you can leave for Jaca on the Canfranero train, and we will link to the video about this train below, or by bus. We take the opportunity to remind you that every single time we mention a resource or a video from the channel, we will put a link to it in the first comment fixed below the video. And before we forget, if you are going to Zaragoza, if you are going to spend the day in Zaragoza, keep an eye on our Zaragoza in one day, which is a self-guided tour of our own, made by humans, no AI involved, that will take you to all the places of interest in our city. Next question from Rosanna. Hello Tony and Cecilia, how are you? I would appreciate it if you could give us some information about Tossa de Mar. In July, we are traveling to Spain and will be spending 5 days in Madrid and 3 days in Barcelona, where we have been before. Visiting Barcelona is always a good idea, couldn't agree more, but I am tempted to take a day trip to Tossa. What do you think? Warm regards, congratulations on your excellent work. Hello dear, everything fine here. Tossa de Mar is really beautiful and July is a fantastic month to visit. We talk about Tossa de Mar in the video with the best day trips from Barcelona. Since you already know Barcelona, we think it's a very good idea to go to Tossa, which is easily accessible by bus. As it is high season, buy your bus tickets a few days in advance. All the best to you. The next question is from Sandra. My dear Tony and Cecilia, as always, it is a pleasure to watch your videos. I am traveling to Europe on February the 7th with my husband and children, entering through Madrid. The three of them have Spanish passports and I have a passport from Uruguay. We like these questions because we know there are many cases of families where some members of the family have a European Union passport, others don't. So the question goes, how will the EES work? Will we all go through the same place or will we have to go through different machines? Thank you very much in advance for your valuable information. Love to you both. Hi Sandra. The EES machines are before immigration control. You can approach the machines all together, but only you will have to go through the registration process. Then, once it's completed, when you arrive at immigration control, the easiest thing you do is all of you, the four of you as a family, go through the non-European citizens line. It should be really easy. Warm regards to you and your family. A question from Pimiento Rojo. He states, a clarification, there are flights between Barcelona and Cordoba. Well, no question mark sign, but we take that as a question rather than a statement. Please use question marks. Cordoba airport is tiny and receives almost no flights. Right now, Vueling operates a couple of flights a week, but the schedules change, so you will have to check the dates of your trip. The best alternative is the high-speed train direct from Barcelona to Cordoba. The next question is from Alicia. Tony and Ceci, as always, the best. Thank you, Alicia. I arrive at Madrid airport at 5 a.m., God willing, and if there are no major delays. From there, I take the express bus to Atocha station, railway station, and catch the 11:25 train to Zaragoza. Is it true that the new EES system causes hours of delay? After the passport scan, photo, fingerprints and so on, do I still have to go through immigration or can I leave the airport after that procedure? I'm traveling with carry-on luggage, so I'm not checking any bags. I bought my train ticket with plenty of time to spare, but now I'm afraid it will actually take longer than I thought. Thanks as always. Hi Alicia, we've just published a video on EES, we mentioned it earlier, that should clarify all the questions you have. Check it out. We recommend a minimum interval of 4 hours between your flight's scheduled arrival time and the train's departure time. So you should have a smooth connection, which is what we expect. Best regards to you. Now it is Ricardo. Hello Tony and Cecilia. In my constant browsing of the internet, I have not found anyone more knowledgeable and effective in their travel recommendations than you. I subscribe to your channel because it is the best. I hope you can help me clarify the following question. Well, first of all, thanks a lot for your kind words, Ricardo. To enter Spain with a foreign passport, is it mandatory to have travel insurance? Well, that's a great question. Although I usually take out travel insurance for all my trips, all my previous visits to Spain, I don't remember it being mandatory and no one has ever asked me for it. I will be traveling with my girlfriend who will be carrying a Mexican passport. Thank you in advance for your wise response. Greetings and blessings. Ricardo, we cover your excellent question in some detail in our video with 29 questions about immigration in Spain. We'll leave the link below and give you a summary here. No matter how many videos you see saying otherwise, the Spanish authorities do not require medical insurance for tourists who don't need a visa to visit Spain. That includes Mexicans, Americans, and many other nationalities. That doesn't mean we don't think it is reckless to travel without medical insurance, but it is not an immigration requirement. All the best to you. Karina says, hello Tony and Cecilia, I have been following you for over a year and your tips were very useful for the trip I took in May this year. But now I need more specific advice. I am traveling with my parents, both over 70, and would like to know what itinerary you recommend for 3 full days in Madrid. Thank you very much and best regards to you both. Hello Karina, what a great thing to do to travel with your parents. We try to do that as often as we can with mine. Make sure you do things, take things slowly, adapt to the rhythm so you can enjoy your trip. We don't do customized itineraries, but we would take a look at the list of the 10 must-see attractions in Madrid and make a small selection according to your parents' interests. We also wouldn't rule out the hop-on, hop-off bus as a first introduction to the city. It's great for those with mobility issues. Links to videos on those 2 topics are below this one. Also, our Madrid self-guided walking tours contain very detailed itineraries that you can easily complete. Best regards to you. Juanchito asks, hi Tony, thank you very much for your videos. I really like them. I'm going to Spain for the 3rd time next May. I have $1,000 in cash and I want to know if you know of any currency exchange offices in Madrid with a favorable rate for exchanging that money for euros. Also, I wanted to know about the financial verification that is done at immigration. Is it valid to have that money, or since it's not euros, would the authorities not take it into account? Thanks in advance. Hi Juanchito, there are actually 2 currency exchange offices, one next to the other in Puerta del Sol in the heart of Madrid. We will try there, compare exchange rates and not waste too much time on it. We know some people spend hours on this exchange operation to gain just a few cents. Those dollars can be included in the verification of financial means. Euros or foreign currency are accepted. We deal with that and many other issues related to immigration on the video we mentioned earlier. Best regards to you. Master Brownie says, hi, I love your videos. I find them very useful. Have you thought about doing the same thing with other European countries? I would love a guide to France with your tips. We're really glad you find our videos useful. A specialization in a subject doesn't just happen overnight, at least not for us. We have been traveling around Spain and Portugal for over 40 years, that's 4 decades, and feel fully qualified to generate content about these 2 countries and answer questions about them. But we don't have that level of expertise and knowledge about other countries. I know that most travel channels here in YouTube are multi-destination. The author travels all over the world, and even if they have only been in a place for 3 days, they become experts. Some people do it well, but in most cases we find the quality of the information to be, shall we say, flawed. We don't work that way. We would not know how to do it. That's why we are going to stay in the Iberian Peninsula. And don't get us wrong, because we love to talk about so many places we love worldwide. From the North Pole to Australia, New Zealand, from Patagonia to Singapore. And we are nearly halfway through the video and are stopping for a quick coffee break. If the content we produce has been useful to you and you want to support the work we do, you can invite us to a virtual coffee. You will find the link below the video. Or you can become a channel member clicking on the join button below. Back to the questions. Next question from Santi. Hello, thank you very much for the valuable information. I'm asking why you don't mention Malaga Airport for those who want to travel from Madrid or Barcelona to Andalusia. When I needed to go from Granada to Madrid, there were very few flight options. I traveled to Malaga and it was a very good option. Thank you for everything. Good question, Santi. From Barcelona to Malaga, we would indeed recommend flying to Malaga if the person really wanted to go to Malaga. But for other destinations in Andalusia, and certainly from Madrid, we think the high-speed train is a much better option. In your case, you wanted to go from Granada to Madrid, you went to Malaga and then took a flight to Madrid, but there are many high-speed trains a day from Granada to Madrid. You get to see the wonderful Andalusian landscapes and you arrive in the city center. And the same goes for Cordoba, Seville and Malaga itself. We would keep the plane for really long distances. Barcelona to Granada, Barcelona to Seville, Barcelona to Malaga. Although there are direct high-speed trains covering that route as well. Best regards to you. Graciela says, hello Cecilia and Tony, your Q&A videos are excellent as always. Thank you so much for your help in organizing our trips. I am Graciela from Uruguay. On February the 4th, that's just around the corner, we will begin our trip to those latitudes and we already have everything planned, always with the help of your recommendations. I have a question that I hope you can answer. On February the 25th, we will travel from Salamanca to Barajas Airport in Madrid, where we will take a flight to Rome at 1:45 p.m. Can we go directly to the airport from Salamanca? And how early should we leave Salamanca to get to the airport without rushing? Thank you very much in advance for your help. Best regards. Hello Graciela, thank you very much to you for your kind words. If you're taking a European flight, and you are going to Italy, it is recommended that you arrive at the airport at least 2 hours in advance. There is a direct bus operated by the bus company Monbus from Salamanca to the airport. Choose a schedule that allows you to arrive with enough time and that takes into account any eventualities that may occur along the way. There could be traffic jams, fog, accidents, protests. Everyone knows their own travel times, but we would try to arrive between 3 and 4 hours before the scheduled departure of the flight. You will have to check the times that bus leaves from Salamanca or arrives in Madrid and choose the one that fits your interests better. Best regards. Lisa says, hi Tony, I will be in Spain and Portugal in April. I would like to pre-book for Pena Park only. Do you have a link I can use? Their website is confusing. Thank you. I appreciate your help, Lisa. Well, Lisa is going to Pena Park in Sintra, near Lisbon. Lisa, the option to book just a ticket for the park is so well hidden in the official website. We found it for you. We have left a link below where you will find the option to book just the park. But because the visit to the park, as opposed to the palace, is not arranged by time slots and there are no visitor limits, you could also purchase it on arrival to the complex. Roberta says, I'm flying to Madrid from Brazil with Air China and the flight arrives at the airport at 12:25 a.m., which is in the middle of the night. My question is, what transportation will be available and what is the best option for getting to the hotel, which is very close to the airport and is called Sleep Hotel? Will Uber be available at that time? Is the taxi fare fixed for hotels nearby? Well, your hotel is in the airport area, but we would not say it's very close. From T1, where you will arrive, it's nearly 9 kilometers to the hotel. Your choice will be between a taxi, which will probably charge you a minimum fare of 20 euros, or a VTC, a ride-sharing service, available 24 hours a day. You will find more details in the video about Madrid airport transportation we're going to link below. Fiquito Junque says, a few years ago I went to Madrid and we got a taxi driver who took us to Gran Via the M40 and charged us 90 euros for the trip. It was a complete rip-off. It certainly was. If I go back, I want to avoid another bad experience like that. 2 questions. Is there Uber or something similar at Barajas? There are cities in the world where they are not accepted at the airport. And is there a way to refuse to take a taxi without calmly inspecting the taxi driver in the queue? Part of the problem we had was the insistence of the attendants in the taxi rank that we had to get in quickly. We were intimidated by that treatment. Well, it's not hard to understand that boarding at the taxi rank needs to be agile, otherwise you would be in the queue for hours. 3 ride-sharing companies operate at Barajas, Bolt, Cabify and Uber. In the video about airport transportation that we mentioned earlier, we show you their locations in each terminal on the map. When it comes to taxis, information is power. If you had known about the fixed fare, you would not have paid 90 euros. The fixed fare does not depend on the route taken, but on the destination in the center of Madrid. If they try to charge you anything other than the fixed fare, just say that you are going to call the police to see how quickly the situation is resolved. Then file a complaint, which can be done online to get that taxi driver penalized. If you are not convinced by a taxi driver's appearance, you can leave the queue and get back in line to get another one. Jackson wants to know, can FC Barcelona Stadium be visited? Well, Jackson, we've answered your question at the beginning of the video. Anna says, hello lovely couple. Hello Anna. I plan to take a 15-day cruise to Barcelona and the surrounding region, then travel to Istanbul, then return to Madrid for 5 days, Valencia and the surrounding region for 15 days, then Egypt, and finally return to Brazil. What do you think about this part of the itinerary for Spain and the connections to other countries? Thank you for the content and for your willingness to help us. Dear Anna, anytime you can dedicate to the Barcelona region is great. Now, we would transfer days from the Valencia region to the Madrid region, as the capital of Spain has a large number of incredible cities nearby. Transfer some days from Valencia to Madrid. No problem flying to Istanbul from Barcelona. It may be easier to fly to Egypt from Madrid than from Valencia. Best regards to you. The next question is from José Carlos. Congratulations on the channel. I'm binge watching this weekend. I'm going to Madrid in March, staying in the city for 4 days and then going to Barcelona. I'm running the marathon, where I will stay for 6 days. I thought about doing day trips to Toledo and Montserrat. That's great choice of day trips. Initially, I considered going to Andorra, but I realized it's not worth a day trip. I'm thinking of adding a day trip to Girona as well. What do you think? Well, Girona is splendid, as you will see in the video we have dedicated to Girona in the channel, and also the video on the best day trips from Barcelona. Another great day trip is Tarragona with its Roman past. And yes, Andorra is not really a day trip. You will lose most of the day traveling. Hopefully you will not get stuck in line at customs. And once in Andorra, where will you go? You need at least 5 days to see the basics of the country. We've noticed that in most of the videos we see of other people who went to Andorra, they stayed a couple of days in the capital, which for us is the least interesting place in the country, and that's all they saw. We think it's a great missed opportunity. Go to Andorra when you have the time to visit that incredible country. And Maria do Carmo is back again. Cecilia and Tony, I have another question. If you can answer it, I would appreciate it. And basically, I'm going to summarize it because it's very long. She needs to find out about bus transportation from Jaca to Torla and vice versa. I wanted to leave home with all the information so as not to waste time and avoid any unforeseen circumstances, as I am traveling alone and have many activities planned. By the way, I'm going to Canfranc after seeing your video, great tip. I would also like to thank you for the tip about El Tintero in Malaga, fantastic, but you eat so much. Hello Maria do Carmo. An itinerary like yours with many activities scheduled does not go well with dependence on public transportation, which forces you to waste a lot of time adjusting to the few daily frequencies between the cities on your itinerary. It's not the same public transportation on non-touristy areas of the country than public transportation to leave Madrid airport. There's a huge difference. And yes, it is very difficult to find the schedules for those buses. Keep trying with the tourist offices and also write to the one in Sabiñánigo and the Aragon tourist office. We're glad you liked El Tintero. Actually, there you can eat whatever you want. You just have to learn to say no to the waiters arriving with that wonderful food. All the best to you. Alejandro says, I'm traveling in May and will be visiting northern Spain and Portugal. What do you recommend for visiting Ons Island? How far in advance do I need to book my ticket and request authorization? Well, in mid-May, it becomes mandatory to request an authorization to visit the island. If you are traveling before the 15th, the boat company will handle the authorization for you. Otherwise, you will have to do it yourself on the website that we will provide in the comment below. If you're traveling on a weekend, book as far in advance as possible. If you are traveling during the week, 1 week in advance should be sufficient, as May is mid-season. Valeria says, hi Tony, I'm traveling to Spain in February. I'm flying from Buenos Aires to Barcelona and wanted to know if credit card payments are now accepted on the metro to get from the airport to Liceo station. Thank you very much. Best regards, Valeria. Valeria, we just went to Barcelona to check that out, as well as many other things. We talked to metro employees, and that on-the-go payment system is being implemented gradually. For now, it is only available at a few stations. I think it's Barceloneta, Sants and Sagrada Familia. At the airport, it may take a while because the metro requires a special ticket. So you will not be able to pay with your card at the barrier at the metro. In all cases, when you pay at the barrier with a credit card, you are purchasing the most expensive ticket. That does not entitle you to change of transport for free. A user with no name, which is a pity username, please. He says, hello Tony and Cecilia, a group of friends and I are walking the Portuguese way of St. James from Tui to Santiago. And then basically he's explaining how he's arriving in Madrid, taking a train to Vigo, and doesn't know how to get to Tui on the same day. Because he says it will be too late by the time we arrive in Vigo, unless you have another recommendation for getting to Tui on the same day we arrive in Spain. Greetings from Costa Rica. Thanks for everything. You guys are great. Thanks a lot. If you are traveling as a group, when you arrive in Vigo, we gathered at around 8 p.m. You could take a taxi to Tui, which will set you back about 50 euros. If you split the cost between several people, it might be worth it or not, only you know whether that would be the case. Otherwise, stay overnight in Vigo and take the opportunity to go out for some delicious seafood in the evening. All the very best to you. The next question is from Fabian. Hi Tony, we're watching all your videos. Question, do I have to buy the train ticket from Seville to Madrid in advance, or can I do it on the day of the trip? Hello Fabian, well, you haven't watched all our videos because, as we have said countless times in our channel videos, high-speed train tickets should be purchased as far in advance as possible to get the best prices and avoid the risk of not finding tickets. We talk about this in a video we'll link below, along with the mistakes you should avoid if you are traveling by high-speed train in Spain. Next, there is a contribution from Hugo. Hello, here's a suggestion for those who rent cars and travel with children aged 6 or older. What we do is buy the booster seat at a hypermarket or similar place, which is much cheaper than renting one from the agency with the car. Thanks for the tip. From a financial point of view, it makes a lot of sense. The only question is what to do with a booster seat at the end of the trip, because we imagine you are not going to take it back home with you. Buying it only to throw it away a few days later does not fit with our responsible consumption practices. Maybe you could give it to the rental agency even if they haven't done anything to deserve it. That way it can continue to be used and won't end up in the trash a few days after being purchased. Next question is from Martin. Hi Tony and Cecilia, thank you for all the advice you give. I have a question. I plan to visit Spain again next April to see some places other than those I have already visited, such as Granada and Valencia. I would like to know if there is direct transportation that will take me from Granada to Valencia without having to return to Madrid. Hello Martin, yes, there is a direct bus operated by Alsa and the trip takes about 8 hours. Right now there is no direct high-speed train, but you could take one from Granada to Cordoba and then transfer to another train in Cordoba that will take you directly to Valencia. However, waiting for that second connection could be a waste of time. Whenever we help people plan itineraries for visiting Spain, we recommend avoiding combining Granada with Valencia because of the time lost in travel. It's an entire day of your holiday lost. Next question is from Mary. Thank you so much, Tony, for the information on the senior discount for rail travel. That's a question Mary made in the previous Q&A session. I did not realize the prices change so much depending on how far in advance you book. Is it the same in the slower train system? I don't necessarily need to travel always by high speed. Mary, check out our videos on the mistakes you should avoid if traveling by high-speed train in Spain. We mentioned it earlier, because buying your tickets at the last minute is probably the biggest mistake. A ticket bought at the last minute might cost 10 times more than one bought in advance. The rules for the slower train system are different. If there are no seat reservations involved, there is no need to buy the tickets in advance. But bear in mind that in general, wherever there is a high-speed train line, the slow options, when available, are minimal. Karina says, hi Tony and Cecilia, we're going to do the primitive route of the Way of St. James at the end of April, and we're thinking of sending a suitcase from Oviedo to Lleida. Are you familiar with the service offered by the post office for pilgrims, or another way of transporting and storing luggage for 15 days? Karina, as we've never done the Camino, the Way of St. James, we don't have any first-hand experience of any services. But from what we know, the post office's service would be your best option. It's a service designed precisely for what you're looking for, which is to send your luggage back home or wherever while you are on the Camino. The basic price of the Pack Peregrino, which is what Correos calls the service, includes a storage of your suitcase for 15 days at the post office where you send it. Correos, the Spanish post office, is a public company. It is reliable. Your alternative would be a private company, but you will have to search hard to find positive reviews from other people who have used them before. Besides, we don't think it will be cheaper. Best regards to you. Jaldeson says, good morning and thank you for the advice how to travel by train from Spain to Paris. Thank you. Good morning to you. There is a direct high-speed train operated by the French company SNCF that runs from Barcelona to Paris. Next is Patricia. Hello Tony, greetings from Mexico. Could you advise us on the most convenient way to travel from Santiago de Compostela to Porto? Thank you very much for your help. Best regards to Cecilia. Hello Patricia. The only direct transport available from Santiago in Spain to Porto in Portugal is the bus. We have a video explaining how to travel from Spain to Portugal and vice versa, where you will find more details. You could also go by train, but you will have to change trains and the schedules are far more limited. Kind regards to you. Alvaro says, hello, congratulations to you all. I wanted to ask about public transportation in Zaragoza and in particular the best way to leave Delicias station. Thank you, best regards. Delicias station is where the high-speed train arrives. Alvaro, public transportation here in our hometown mainly consists of numerous bus lines and a tram line, as well as taxis and ride-sharing services. The best way to leave the station will depend on where you are going. Always remember that thing we keep saying, help us help you. If we knew where you want to go, we could give you specific advice. There are several bus lines that go to the city center, but the choice will depend on where you are going. And then a question from Elsa. Hi Tony and Ceci, we are planning to travel to Porto between March and April. After checking out your video with Porto tips, I have the following questions. Is there a card in Porto that includes museums and public transportation like the Lisbon card? Do you have any recommendations for day trips? And finally, in the video on what to see and do in Porto, you mentioned the 500 bus line to Matosinhos, saying there would be a video on what to do in Matosinhos, but I couldn't find it. Thank you so much in advance for everything you do. Words cannot express how grateful we are for the great work you do. Thanks to your YouTube channel, we have discovered places we never imagined existed. I wish there were more channels like yours. It would make our trips easier and more educational. Sending you a big hug from Los Angeles. Thank you so much, Elsa, for your kind words. We were really moved by them. Thank you so much. In answer to your first question, there is an attractions card, but it's called Porto card. But unlike the Lisboa card, we don't think it's worth it. That's why we hardly ever mention it. As for day trips during spring, summer and fall, it's well worth taking a boat trip upriver to see the vineyards. It's a beautiful landscape. We haven't had time to do it yet. That's why we cannot share any recommendations. And finally, we had planned a trip to cover Matosinhos, but it was cancelled due to bizarre circumstances, a strike by Portuguese harbour pilots. So we weren't able to make it to Matosinhos and record the video. We intend to return, but we don't know yet when. Warm regards to you both. And that was all for today. Our next video with questions and answers at the beginning of March. In the meantime, make the most of our videos and commentary boxes where every day we reply to the incoming questions of our dear channel members. Travel safe.